Diane, and we're back again with a wise record system. And thank you again for joining me and hanging in there, because this is the third session. We're going to talk practically. Okay, we've talked about why you need a wise record system and all the benefits and what God has to say about it. So let's look at, well, how do we do this? How do we do a budget? So I have 3 handouts here. The first one is a sample budget, or what we call like a cash system. But and again, the numbers are small, but it's just for the purpose of illustration to get the idea of how this thing works. And the other one is a percentage of guidelines. It's not like cast in stone. It's a percentage for guidelines to give you a perspective. And then the last one is a worksheet for you to use for your own budget. Now, let's look at the first one. A sample budget for a weekly payroll. Whether you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, yearly, well, you probably get paid yearly, monthly, or however, or sporadic. If some people have a business, it may come whenever. It might not come on a regular basis. The whole thing is, so what they want you to do is to take your total gross. In this case, they're saying gross, and then subtract the withholdings to get your net. And in this case, that the taxes in the first column were 169. The total for the weekly gross was 409. So they subtracted it, and what do they have left? 240. So they would take that 240 each week and put it into labeled budget envelopes. And again, you can, if you fancy, you can do it online. Sometimes people find it very easy to just do it. So basically, you take your weekly gross, subtract the taxes, and you have a net. You take the net cash, in this case it was 240, and you put it into envelopes, labeled ones like tithe, food, gas, for the week, saving, save a little each week when you get paid, spending, I'm gonna buy my coffee or whatever, in taxes. So that's the first one. Now, if it's, then the monthly is, you still, however you get paid, you still have to take and just, or you have to, if you get a monthly bill, you need to say, okay, but I get paid weekly, so I gotta take my monthly bill and divide it by 4 weeks, 4.33 actually, divide it by the weeks. The whole thing, you need to have a common denominator, either a weekly, a monthly, or a yearly. So in the monthly case, they had to convert the bills, all their monthly bills added up to 1,300. So they're going to take that monthly and divide that into the envelopes for the week. And like if you have some bills are paid once a year, maybe, I don't know, some, well, they used to be anyway. House insurance sometimes is once a year. If you pay, I think annually, you can eliminate the installment interest or extra charges. So I know we pay some once a month. And so anyway, so you put that once a year. So, or vacation, say you're going to save for, that's a good one. A vacation, maybe you only go once a year. And I mean, a great thing is like you hear some banks do Christmas clubs. You know, you put a certain amount, sometimes they can automatically take it out of your check, or however they do it out of, but you set up a Christmas club. So a little bit comes out all the time. You don't miss it. It's a small amount, but boom, by the end of the year, it's like, whoa, I got all this money for Christmas, you know? Praise the Lord, I just hit the lottery, you know? But you could do the same thing for vacation, you know, set aside a certain amount and then put it aside, you know, whether it's $5, $10, $50, it doesn't matter. As long as you know what your goal is and you try to divide it up. Now, let me give you some important points to remember that if you have extra money that shows up in your labeled envelope, whether it's gas, electric, mortgage, or heat, don't feel free to spend it. Keep the extra cash for 8 to 10 weeks and then remove it to put it in the excess cash folder. Because let's say, for example, you pay life insurance or your vacation. Let's say you're going to save for your vacation and you do that once a week. But all of a sudden you look halfway through the year and go, wow, I got all this money in this envelope. Well, hello, wait a minute. Don't spend it yet because it's supposed to wait until December when you take your vacation or whatever month it is. That's for something else. And sometimes we think, whoa, we got all this money in our checking account. Well, wait a minute, I got to pay this bill coming up, or have real estate taxes or whatever it is. It's like, so we don't want to feel free to spend all this extra right away. It may have a purpose to it later. And if it's on a monthly, never make out a check for anything that's not listed in your monthly expenses. So this is a pretty strict way. If you're just starting out and you're saying, okay, wait a minute, I've decided this is our budget. And if it's not in the budget, basically what this saying is, and it's not in your monthly, okay, because you've, again, put in a certain amount of money in these monthly envelopes. And so that go into the checking account. So don't write a check for something that's not on your list, because guess what? You've just spent your electric or gas money because you wrote a check for something that's not on the list. So you can't do that. And then the yearly, like the vacation, that was easy one to talk about. Never remove cash from an account unless it's an annual payment due, because it's really not extra cash. Or when it comes time to Christmas club, you're not going to have any money in there. You spend it all. So this first one here, the sample budget, and then I'll open it up to questions after we get through the three, is takes the cash, it puts it in weekly envelopes. It takes the bills that are due monthly and puts them in a checking account. And it takes the bills due yearly and puts them in a savings account. So it's really like three separate things: cash, checking, and then opening a savings. So that's a simple sample budget for a weekly payroll. Now, the second handout talks about percentage guidelines. And this one, again, is just a chart to look at. Okay. All right. What it has is it's got like 15,000, 20, 40, 50, 60. It's got all these amounts going across the top. And then it has a net spendable. And then when you realize that the whole point of this is that tax rates may change from year to year, inflation's going to change, and expenses may change. However, the purpose of this illustration is to show you that as your income increases, it gives you more disposable income. That is, if you continue to live within your means and not try to keep, if you live within where God has you and live within your means, then you will have more money for investments. Now, investments is not just the stock market, mutual funds. It is also investing in the kingdom of God. Because one of the goals that I know I've tried to accomplish in my life is to have as much disposable income as possible. In other words, it's not defined that it's housing, auto, insurance, and this. It's not a fixed expense that I'm going to have. It's what's left over. And I'll be honest with you, once you start eliminating those debts, you're like, I used to pay X amount of dollars on my car loan, $400, $500 a month, $200, whatever you got. on the credit. If you used to paying those and then all of a sudden you're debt free, you're like, woo! I mean, you're like rich. You got all this extra money. That's what we call disposable money. You can do whatever you want with it. You can go blow it off. You can have fun with it, which isn't what we're talking about. But you could have fun with some of it. But you want to invest it. You want to invest it into your future. Some of it you want to invest in other ministries. Some of it you want to invest in your retirement. Some of it you want to invest in your kids. Some of it you want to invest, but you get, it's discretionary. But remember, we're stewards. So it's not like everything we want to do with our money. It's like, God, Lord, I've got all this extra. What do you want me to do with it? And he'll probably say, well, enjoy this and sow this and give this. You'll feel and hear that, I wanted to give to this building program, but I just couldn't afford. I'm going to give to this building program. I know God will bless me. So it's like, it's discretionary. You and the Lord, you're the steward. You get to decide what you want. To me, that's like the best place to be. Have as much discretionary income as possible. And I do want to, I think I put this on the handout, is remember the word of God when you're looking at this. Say, well, I might not have that amount of money, but with God, nothing shall be impossible. I mean, there are scriptures that say he gives seed to the sower. So if you don't sometimes have what your heart is desiring, God will meet that sometimes in other ways. And then remember what we're doing this whole thing for. Remember the Lord your God, for it's he that gives you power to get wealth. See, he doesn't usually just dump, rain all this money like coming down from heaven. He gives you power to get wealth. So why is he giving you all this power to get wealth? So you can establish his covenant that he swore to his fathers. In this earth, the covenant is the kingdom, is getting the word, the good news out. So he wants you to, I tell you, you can't outgive God, but he'll let you know if you're giving out of fear, my gosh, if I don't give, I'm not going to eat. I mean, that's not what he's talking about. But, you give when he prompts you, when God loves a cheerful giver. If you give him because you're grudging, that's not the way to give. And God does say in Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived, because God is not mocked. Whatsoever you sow, that's what you're going to reap. So we want to reap good things. So the whole point of this percentage is that you can see that the more income you have coming into your home, the more you have available at the end to do something with. So now, and then the last one is the monthly budget worksheet. And this, I think, is a really handy tool. And I put forth in the handout what, or I could say free download. I'm going to get this on my website. Remember we talked about the Laodicean church and God was upset with them because they were lukewarm. Well, the first thing, so I put on here a non-monetary blessings. I put that on a monthly budget worksheet. We have to remember that we have spiritual riches. We have health. We have family. We have friends. We have opportunities. We have time. Time is precious. You can't get that back. We have skills, gifts that God's given us. And so you can see all those things. And we need to remember to, when we're doing the budget or the wise record system, to realize that, God has blessed me. And, he'll continue to increase you. So then I have it written down that you list all the income sources. And if you only have one, believe God, you'll have another one. They have two separate ones, because I think Billy Epperhart teaches it's good to have a few income streams coming in. So, I mean, and that's always a good, I did financial planning. They'd always tell us with a mutual funds, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because if that one basket falls, all your eggs crash. So you want to put your eggs a little bit in a stock, a little bit in a bond, a little bit in a seed, a little bit here, a little bit in this type of stock. or whatever. A mutual fund is a conglomerate of all different investments. So you want to put a little everywhere. Well, the same thing applies in the kingdom. You know, you want to do your best to ask God, how can I get a couple other sources of income coming in? You know, so anyway, we list them all, you know, you just list them for the income. And then I put down for expenses, although tithe is not an expense. And if you know, I don't know where you all are on the tithing thing, but I have a whole teaching on tithing and another one on offerings. But I don't think people really understand what the tithe is. But anyway, I took that off the top, tithes and offerings as a category, even though it's not an expense. I put it there because it's not our money to spend. Technically, it's really it's God's. And then I put in a budget for savings, budget for the taxes. Now, you may not need to if you have a W-2 check, but if you have your own business or something like that, you may need to budget for your federal, state, and FICA and all that. And then, you know, we have the regular things like mortgage or rent or real estate taxes, heat, electricity, you know. Now, here's another one that people forget, household repairs and maintenance. We used to call it, I don't like this terminology, in accounting, they used to call it a sinking fund. This is like, that sounds too negative to me. But you could call it a storehouse fund. I mean, that might sound a little better. And that if you're gonna need a new furnace in 2 years, maybe you could put a little bit aside toward that furnace. So in 2 years from now, when it's reached its capacity and it doesn't produce what you need it to anymore, you'd have the funds or at least a huge amount of money to put toward it. So people forget to budget for car repairs too. Household repairs, car repairs. Well, wait a minute, my car might need repairs, you know? And so you really need it, because again, it's not a regular item. You know, it's not like it's paid every month, like your electric bill. An auto repair, maybe once a year, twice a year, whatever it is. So you need to budget for that too. Of course, groceries is regular if you want to eat. Auto loan, charge account, stuff like that. So I already mentioned that about the auto repairs. Sometimes people don't budget for like an excise tax. Sometimes if you have a newer car, that can be quite expensive. What about education expenses, entertainment, dining? John and I don't eat out a lot normally because I like my own homemade cooking. I'm a scratch cook. I like things from scratch. And so I'm like, ugh. But anyway, usually when we go out, they don't cook it the way I like it. And so you eat it, but it doesn't, that's just me. But entertainment and dining can also be a pleasure because you get in a different environment, you know, you're with other people. So it has its advantages. Maybe you want to budget for it, you know, recreation, travel, hobbies, other gifts. And so that's that. Hi, I'm Diane Grubis, and I've started a ministry, and I want to bless you. I'm so excited about it. DianeGrubis.com. Go to the website and check out all the wonderful things that we have in store for you. We have some great epic conversations with some powerful guests and some teachings, free downloads. And we would love to have you join us, love to have you partner with us. We appreciate you and we want to hear from you. So check out the website and thank you.